Good evening, Shocker families. Welcome to tonight's Family Table Talk. My name is Kim Sandlin, and I am your hostess this evening. Our partner in crime, Alicia, is still out at a professional conference, and so she was sorry to miss tonight's table talk because this is probably our most popular one. Imagine that. It happens, the topic is money, and that's what everybody is kind of thinking about these days as we're getting ready for another academic year. So we're glad you are all here, whether this is your first time to join us, or maybe you guys we have some faithful listeners, viewers, and so we welcome you all. I serve as the Director of Student Success here, and so part of our mission is to help our students and families transition into Shocker life as smoothly and successfully as possible. So this is one of the ways that we partner with our friends in student affairs to make sure that we're getting you the information you need when you need it. So hot topic, money. I'm going to let Shilu and Ryan introduce themselves, and we're going to dive right in. I'm not going to spend a ton of time teeing this up or a long time on introductions for me because it's not about me tonight. So Shilu, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Shilu Surrender, and I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. So glad to be here with you tonight. So look forward to sharing a lot of good information.
Hi, I'm Ryan Lofink. I'm the Director of Student Account Receivable here. So same, I'm excited to be here and share all the different tools and things we have for you to view your student's bill.
Yeah. So many of you, if you've been to orientation, I'm sure you've seen Ryan. I think Ryan's been at all of them. I think he outnumbers all of us on how many he's been at, because I know I missed one and Alicia's missed a couple as well. So Ryan, we appreciate you sticking with us all summer. And then certainly our financial aid staff has done a great job with our parents in terms of presenting information to them. But tonight it's about getting real and knowing how to interpret all kinds of information. I know we had some really good questions, and we've had good questions all summer. So I anticipate our chats being pretty lively. And so I think we'll dig right in. So we'll turn it over to you, Shilu, to get us started tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So as you know, financial aid, hopefully this is not going to be new information to you. You have either been to some type of workshop we've offered, or you've been to orientation, heard some of this information, but it's good to go over some of the details with you so that you will be ready to go once August gets here. So let me advance the slide here, which is not working for me. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so many of you probably know about our services. We're really committed to helping you figure out your finances, and that is, paying for college, the different types of aid that's available, and we have a staff of 21 people who are committed to helping all of your students and you figure this out. And so we offer specialized advising. So like if there's something that happens in your circumstances, something changes, we're available throughout the year for anything that you have questions on. You can also work with us to create a personal plan to pay for college. That involves like looking at your aid, looking at the resources that you bring as a family, and then just figuring out that plan. Our office also offers scholarships and grants and loans. That's part of financial aid. We also help with FAFSA completion. So if you haven't done the FAFSA, or you have questions about the free application for federal student aid, then make an appointment and meet with us, and we'll help you with that. And then we also offer financial wellness. We have workshops throughout the year to help students figure out their plan, when they're working, how to budget, how to plan for those fun expenses, but also budget for tuition and fees or book costs or other educational expenses. Okay, the first place to start, of course, is with the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That's a form that you have to complete every year. So if you have not done that yet, that would be the first step, is get that completed. And then the next one is going to be available, they've promised us, on October 1. So you can start that process as early as October and start planning for next year. But for this year, you want to make sure that you've got all of your records, anything that you are planning to use for financial aid. You want to make sure that that is ready to go. You have everything lined up. You keep a folder, keep that organized, and then you're good to go. And then in terms of those out-of-pocket costs, you want to have a plan to pay for the differences so that your student isn't stressed out during the school year about that balance or about how to pay for books or any other expenses that come up. Planning is the key, so we want to make sure that we work together to do that. Of course, many of you know there's different types of aid, and so if you're not familiar with it, we've got scholarships and grants, which are your free aid that you don't have to pay back. So those are the resources that everybody wants, and we're glad to be able to offer lots of those to our incoming students. And then work study or part-time employment off campus or your personal savings are a way to not have to take out loans, but you can utilize personal finances to help supplement the federal aid that's available or the scholarships and grants. And then, of course, student and parent loans. We save that to the end, but that is an additional resource that's available for all of you who filed the FAFSA and are eligible for those loans. So if there's a gap between what you're getting in scholarships or your personal savings that you're able to bring, the loans are another option for you, so that it's a balance of gift aid, self-help aid, and then potentially loans. For details, we won't have time here to go into the details about the loans. Here are some QR codes that can get you directly into information about them. So the federal subsidized and unsubsidized loan are the ones that your student would take out. And then your federal Parent Plus loan are for dependent students. Parents can take out and borrow loans for those additional expenses, educational expenses. And then beyond that, there are also private loans. If there's additional money that's needed, then there's different rates, and it's based on your credit history. So we tend to say avoid the private loans, but for the ones that, if you want to start with subsidized, those are the ones based on need, and you're not accruing interest while you're in school, and then you have the grace period with the subsidized and unsubsidized. So this is where asking lots of questions to come into the office if you want to understand more about the loans. There's also lots of web resources, so check those out, and if that's an option that you want to consider, then definitely we're here to help. Where you'll get that information related to the kind of aid that your student is being offered is through the offer letter. And that letter will have all of this information. Things that you want to pay close attention to is the cost of attendance. And the cost of attendance is not the bottom line of what you're going to pay, but it's an estimate of the things that you can think about in terms of paying for college. Then the net cost after that financial aid, that's then what's left over and what you'll have to pay directly to your fee bill. So your tuition and fees and potentially on-campus housing. If that number is a negative, then we call that excess aid, and that will be refunded to the student, or if a parent loan is in there, it'll be to the parent potentially. Or if the number is positive, that means there's remaining amount that you still owe, and Ryan will talk about some of the options for how to pay that balance. And then, of course, tuition and fees have been assessed. That happens every mid-July and then also in December. And so you'll be able to kind of see what that balance is and start to make plans in terms of that balance, whether you're getting excess aid or you have an estimated remaining costs to pay. And in terms of costs, when you look at the bill, you're going to see the costs for the tuition and fee charges that are directly assessed, and that's what we call billed costs. There may be also some electronic books or online book costs that there may be assessed on there, because we're trying to make your expenses for books lower cost. And so some of those resources may be digital, and you'll see those charges on there. And then, of course, if the student is living on campus, you will see housing both for the room and for the meals. The other things we estimate, because we want to make sure that we have enough aid, or you can apply for enough aid to cover those additional expenses, but they're not bottom line costs that you will pay to the institution. They're personal expenses, for a student's toiletries or other things they would need for being on college, or their living expenses. And then, of course, transportation, the gas or flight if they're living out of state and fly. Those things we want to estimate, because everything that's considered a cost, we want to give you as much aid as you're eligible for. And then if you have not been on MyWSU and taken a look at all of these different parts of the aid offer, or have gone out there to accept, some of these are ones that you do that are automatic, and they're automatically accepted for you. So that would be things like a grant funds. And then some of the other things you have to actually accept. Some of the scholarships require formal acceptance, so you have to go in there and accept that aid offer, or student loans, which requires you to accept and let us know how much of that student loan that you want. So you would go into the financial aid links that we have on MyWSU, their web portal, and be able to click on these and get to the pages. So if you have not done that with your student, take a look and make sure that you understand that. And then, of course, our advisors are available to help you if you need to be helped walking through that. Okay, so one of the things that you'll look at in terms of the aid page is the offer tab, and that tab will tell you all of the different types of aid that the student has been offered. And then based on that, they'll hover and they can read more and understand the specific guidelines, especially for scholarships and other resources. There'll be information detailing some of that right on that page. And then don't forget that if a student is interested in loans, there are deadlines for those loans. And for the fall, that's in December by the last day of classes, and then in January you'll start for the spring semester. And as long as you're coming back, you can still accept fall and spring loans. But don't delay and wait too long, because there are deadlines by the end of spring. It will be too late if you have not borrowed in time. And we communicate those to students, but just so that you're aware of it, there are deadlines for accepting those loans. And then if students did not receive the scholarship package that they had hoped for, scholarships is something that you apply for every year. And at Wichita State, we have one platform for all scholarships, and it's called Scholarship Universe. And it's a matching tool. So the student enters information into that, and it'll kick out all of the different scholarships that they would potentially be eligible for. And then some of them, for the internal ones, they will take a look and they'll be eligible to apply. And then for external ones, because we have over 10,000 scholarships that students have access to that are outside of the scholarship universe, platform because different organizations offer that, but they can apply and link to those scholarships through that platform. So if your student has not connected and done that yet, you can still go out there, put in the information for Scholarship Universe, and anything that's still available, you'll be able to view and input that information. The application itself for the next year will become available on November 1, and it typically has a February 1 deadline. So just be mindful of that. If you're looking for additional scholarships for the future, that's something that you do every year, and do that early, and make sure that you keep a timeline of when things are due and get those scholarships, the applications. And so the one piece of advice that I would give is, as you're going into the first year, is it's a clean slate. It's no longer based on high school information. So you'll be able to start fresh, and in that first year, doing well academically would potentially get you the opportunities for additional scholarships in year 2, 3, 4, and beyond. So just be mindful of that and apply early. Just a couple of reminders. So when your student starts at Wichita State as an enrolled student, we can only share information with parents if there is a authorized user on the account that we can share that financial aid information with. So make sure you go out to wichita.edu/proxy and get signed up for that. We must have that on file to be able to share financial aid information with parents. So please go out there and complete that so that we can have conversations if you have questions. Otherwise, then we will be able to talk directly with the student, but wouldn't be able to share additional information other than general information. Most of the notifications that we send out go to the Shocker email due to privacy regulations. And so we want to make sure that the student is regularly checking their Shocker email. Anytime anything changes with their awards, or their aid offers, or any changes to, or if there's any requirement that happens after the fact, we'll send all that information to their Shocker email. So please check that regularly and follow any of the instructions that are given. And then our office is always available to help you understand the options that are there. So in terms of anything that seems complicated, we want to make it as easy for you as possible. So please reach out, ask your questions. No question is too silly. We know that many of you are new to this process and it can be overwhelming at times. And so please ask and know that we're here, and we have helped hundreds, if not thousands, of families navigate this, and we want to make sure that that we're able to help you. I see that there is a question about access. Yes, parents would have not access to it, but we were able to talk with you about your student's account, and you have to have proxy to do that. So that's where you would sign up for the proxy, and then based on that, we'll be able to discuss their financial aid with you because the student has given permission for that. Okay, so just want to give you a little rundown of some of the dates that are coming up. If you are thinking about just the timeline and just August is around the corner, when the financial aid is applied, that'll happen on August 9th. We can disperse aid to student accounts 10 days prior to the start of the semester. So that's the earliest we can do that. So that'll happen on August 9th. And then Ryan's area will process that aid and apply it against those charges that are on the account. And then that will determine if there is excess aid or if there's a balance owed. And then you'll be able to see that. And you can take a look at it now and see the preliminary, but on August 9th is when that aid will be actually applied against those charges, and then you'll be able to see what that balance owed or that excess aid is. And then August 22nd is the last day to add or change the courses. We call that the 100% refund period. And so we want to make sure that you make any changes, and then we are unable to do any type of aid changes after the 100% refund. So once that's locked, let's say grant funds, then after that date, then if a student were to drop their classes or make changes, that could impact their financial aid. And so you always want to check with our office first before a student would withdraw from a class. So make sure to be able to do that by August 29th and August 22nd to make any changes. And then after the 29th, then we will calculate that, and that will set the aid. Now, if a student has not applied for aid yet and it's after the 29th, then it will be adjusted on an ongoing basis. So the aid will pay out, and then if the student were to drop a class, then that could have impact. So I'm just talking about the 10 days prior and what happens during the first couple of weeks of classes. Your student is able to make any changes without any impact on aid, and then once that 100% is set, then any changes they make could potentially impact their aid, whether it's scholarships or grant funds or loans. And then, as I mentioned before, December 9th is the deadline for your fall loans. So if a student is interested in just fall, not a fall spring loan, but just a fall loan, then December 9th is the date for that. I mentioned earlier about our Shocker Financial Wellness area and the things that we offer. In addition to peer coaching or one-on-one advising regarding, budgets and their own finances, we offer workshops throughout the semester so that students can come and attend these different workshops. We offer information about it. We have access to experts in these areas. And then we also have prizes, and we do drawings for scholarships at these by attending these workshops. So I would definitely encourage you. It's not only great information for your students as they navigate and transition to college, but it also is just a great resource as they go forward and have questions about just financial wellness and financial aid. And then, of course, we are always available for all the questions that you have, as I said. And students can go and make direct appointments with advisors based on their own schedule. We also offer virtual appointments. So if a parent and student want to meet anytime during the semester, you can schedule an appointment. You can call our office. A phone call is also a great way to connect with us. And then, of course, we put all of this information on our website, so make sure that you check that out. If any updates are available, we'll send them to their Shocker email, but we also put important announcements out on our website just to make sure that everyone has access. So check regularly for that as well. There's a question about maximum amount of academic scholarships for an incoming freshman. The maximum amount is really based on that cost of attendance. So students can't exceed that cost of attendance in terms of academic scholarships. So we want all of our students to have access to scholarship aid. And so the maximum is really per student is what it costs to go attend Wichita State. And that's why we include all of those different costs in the estimated cost of attendance. Okay, I think that was maybe the last question for now, but I've shared a lot of information. So if you have additional questions, please pop those in the chat, and I'll stay around and we'll be able to answer those at the end as well. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Shilu. So I'll take over here and we'll talk about paying your student bill. Let me get my screen shared here. So give me one moment. All right, so hopefully that should be up there. You should be able to see my screen right now. I am right now just on the wichita.edu homepage. So what I wanted to talk about tonight was kind of hit on a couple main areas. One of them is the accounts receivable website, where you can go to get all kinds of different information regarding deadlines for paying your bill, and then the different information that you might see on the billing, such as the tuition and fees, any waivers that might be accessible to you. So things like that. It's all on our website. I'll also cover a different aspect. So Shilu talked about a proxy, which allows financial aid, the registrar's office, and then also our office to discuss your students' details with you. We have an additional aspect within our software provider that we can give you a billing portal that you can pull down itemized invoices, tax documents, make payments, set up payment plans, stuff like that. And we call that an authorized user. So we'll kind of talk about that. And then we'll talk about the different payment plans that happen, and then payment options. So to start off with, I want to take you to the accounts receivable website. What we do here at Wichita State is we utilize what we call short URLs. So if you ever want to get to the accounts receivable website, you can go just to our homepage. So wichita.edu, and you just type in the slash and do AR, and that will take you to our home. Okay. We do service, as the accounts receivable department here, we do service the entire university. So all the incoming monies flow through us, whether it's tuition and fees, grant payments, different departmental revenues that are going on and whatnot. So you can kind of see that across the top here, the different areas that we cover. The point I want to make tonight is you're going to look at the students' current and prospective. That's kind of the area you want to hit on. So we're going to dive into that right now. This is kind of your one-stop shop for anything finance related to student accounts. The one thing I want to make a mention of right off the bat here is this searching for an answer. So we link to this right here on the website. This is the one-stop portal. So it is a database for all different things WSU. We have self-help articles on here, informational articles, all kinds of stuff like that. And other departments use this as well. So Shilu's group, financial aid, has stuff on here, admissions, all kinds of different areas that your student might come in contact with, or you might have some questions with. So if I'm referencing right here, it's works just like Google. So if I wanted to make an online payment, I could type in payment, and it's going to pop up different articles that reference those words. You can click on it, and it's going to bring up a step-by-step instruction of exactly how to make an online payment. Okay. I talked about authorized user earlier. So if you wanted to type in authorized user, how can I set up an authorized user to make payments? And it's going to give you the step-by-step on how your student can set you up to get your own payment portal. So things like that. So it's a very, very great tool to have when you're at home, 9 o'clock at night. Somebody might not be in the office, and you want to get some answers, or you're finally having some time to actually look at some of this stuff. This is a great place to go to get some of that answers for you. So next thing on this I would like to make a mention of is the authorized users. So this right here is just a web link. So if your student does set you up with your authorized user billing portal, this would be where you come. Again, it's defaulting in some of my usernames. So, but you would have your own username, password. You can bookmark this website. It's a static website. So whenever you need to log in, this is how you get to it. You don't necessarily have to come to our webpage to do it. You can just save it to your favorites, whatnot. But this is where you'd log in, and I'll show you something. I'll show you how to get that set up a little bit later, or how your student will get that set up for you a little bit later. The biggie on this webpage is the important dates. Okay, so Shilu kind of hit on the important dates from a financial aid perspective. What we have here is the financial dates from the tuition and fee payment perspective. So we'll look at fall 2025. Currently right now, if your student logs into their student account, They will see the actual tuition and fee charges that is live right now. So you'll see exactly how much you owe for tuition and then the various fees that are associated with different classes. So that's up and running. The one thing, the payment deadline, I know Shilu mentioned this as well, is August 29th. So that is the hard deadline where you have to have either your account paid in full or you have to be set up on a payment plan. And I'll go over payment plans here in a bit. So that's kind of the one, if you come away with tonight with a deadline date from the payment side, it'd be August 29th. Okay. There are some other dates in here that are payment plan dates. So, and we'll cover payment plans a little bit here. So it's the tuition and fees and then housing and meals. The other dates we have on here is based on courses. So we give the main 3 time frames for courses. So WSU offers a bunch of different time frames for courses. The main 3 that students use are the full semester courses, which we reference are 16 weeks. And then you can have a first half a semester, which is a first 8-week course, or a second half a semester, which is the second 8-week course. Now, the reason we put these up here is if your student is changing classes or something like that, and they want to drop their class and not be billed for it, then they have to drop by these deadline dates. So if your student's in a full semester 16-week course and they don't want to take that course and you don't want to be charged for it, they need to drop that course by August 29th. Okay. If they're in a first 8-week course, the deadline's August 22nd. If they're enrolled in that course and then drop it after the deadline date, you will still be charged for that course. The fees, the tuition fees will still stay on your account. So please be aware of that. Please have your students be aware of that if they're wanting to add drop classes, things like that. Make them aware of those dates. So those are kind of the big things that we're looking at there. I will bring you over and kind of give you a live example of what the student account looks like so you guys can kind of see what you would see and your student would see if they set you up as an authorized user. Okay, so right here, this is our billing portal. Please disregard everything over here on the left hand side. This is my test portal, and so all of our information is not up to date in here because this is mainly our testing area that we play around and do a lot of different stuff, see how it works out on our end. So we don't keep all the information up to date. But what I want to talk about here is, number one, this is something that your student would log into, okay? And to get you access, they would come over here, click on authorized users. They're going to want to add an authorized user. So pretty straightforward on the steps. And then they're going to punch in your email address. Okay. Now they can itemize different stuff in here. So they can give you different accesses if they want to. We default this all to yes. So if your student isn't really paying attention and they're just giving you access, if they punch in your email address and then hit continue, then you're going to get all the access there. Okay. Now what will happen is once they set you up, you will get 2 emails. The first one will be an email that says, John Doe, a student at Wichita State University, set you up. Here is your username. Your username is going to be your email that they entered in here. The second email is going to be a temporary password. So once you come and log into the portal, it will have you reset your password. Okay. So that's how easy it is for your student to get you set up in the portal. Now, once you're in the portal, you are basically, as long as your student gives you all the same access as them, you're going to get all the same stuff. So when we send out billing notices, you're going to get an email for the billing notice. If we send out the 1098T, so your tax forms, you're going to get a notice for that. Okay. Any type of notice that comes out billing wise, you're going to get a copy of it to your email. All right. So that's one of the great aspects of having that is you are now kind of on the same par as your student. All right. So I would definitely advise, if you have not had your student do that already, get them to get you set up in here, and that way you have all the same information that they have. Okay. The other bit here is it gives you a balance due right off the bat. So if you ever want to drill into that, this is a live balance. So if your student is adding and dropping classes, this balance will change, okay? You can drill into it. Our test student here has been in school since 2015, so been here quite a while. You can then expand it down further. This will then subcategorize your tuition. So basically your general tuition charge. If you drill into it further, if you're getting some type of discount, so if your student's getting a Shocker City discount, a Shocker Select, those are the two most common ones, it will show in here. So you'll see that you have two charges, and then you also have a credit, okay? So then those charges, they are being offset by that credit, okay, if you do have a waiver. So this student, we've set it up as an international student, so the student is getting the Global Select discount waiver, which would be similar to the Shocker Select. Then the student support services fee, campus infrastructure fee, that is the mandatory fee, and then any miscellaneous course fees that your student might have depending on their courses. So at Wichita State University, we assess per course. And so as you'll see here, Barton business courses have a different course fee compared to liberal arts and engineering. Okay, so this student's been enrolled in just about every course under the sun. They've got a fine arts class, liberal arts, Barton, and engineering. So they have all types of different courses. So I say that to make a point where if your student does change classes at some point during the 100% drop period, and you think that, hey, I've paid off my bill, I'm down to I don't know anything anymore, and then your student drops a liberal arts class and adds an engineering class. Well, generally an engineering class comes with higher fees. And so at that point, you might owe some money based on what your student is doing in swapping classes around. So that's how you can come in here and look at that. And this is a live screen, like I mentioned before. So if your student drops classes, you're going to see negatives come in here. They add classes, you're going to see positives come in here. So if you see a bunch of line items in there, please always look at it, come up here, because it will sum it together. So you might see a charge in there, but it might be zeroed out because your student maybe was in that class and then dropped that class. And so it's still showing on the bill, but it's actually $0. So that's kind of a quick and easy way to look at what you're looking at billing wise. Oh, shoot. It kicked me out. I talked too long. I'll give this a second to load here. The other thing I want to point out in here is how you can pull down an itemized statement. So if you ever need to get a statement for, like, if you needed work reimbursement or something like that, or scholarship, outside scholarship, you can click on this view on itemized on-demand statement. You can again select which semester you'd like to look at. And this is going to give you, it says it's an official copy. It's going to give you, again, what we were just looking at, all the line items for tuition and fees. And then it's going to give you all the courses that your student is enrolled in as well. So you can get that. It'll let you print it. You can pull it down as a PDF, all kinds of stuff like that, and get that sent or used for whatever you need to have it used for. Okay. The final bit we're going to talk about here is the payment plans. So at Wichita State University, if your student is enrolled in the dorms, you'll get two charges. You'll get a housing charge and a meals charge. It's not showing in your student account, but it will, because this student doesn't have the dorm charges. We break those out automatically. So those two charges, you'll see them on your account, and we'll break them out, and they'll be due on the 15th of each month. So we'll break them out into 4 monthly payments. You'll have a payment due August, September, October, November on the 15th of each month, excuse me. The only option payment plan that you have, if you want to take or not take, is the tuition and fees one. So to enroll in that one, it's quite straightforward. You'd come here, you're going to tell it you want to enroll now. So sorry, you want to click payment plans up top, you're going to click enroll now. It's going to be the only payment plan available. Okay, so fall 2025, you're going to select it. And you're just going to walk through step by step by step. I'm not going to go any further than this step because I don't have stuff set up in my test environment. But what it's going to do is it's going to require you to make a $130 down payment. Now, 100 of this is going to go towards your tuition and fees. Okay, so it's $100 that you're going to pay towards your tuition and fees anyway. It's not an additional expense to you. The only additional expense is the $30. Okay, the $30 goes toward the payment plan setup fee. So that in reality, the payment plan only costs you $30. Okay, and it's a non-interest bearing payment plan, so we don't charge any interest on this. All right. The last bit I want to talk about is payment options. All right, so online in your portal, you can come in here and click make a payment. We have different options for you to pay by, and then even if you don't like any of these options, you can come down here and just type in whatever you'd like to pay. Now, online, we offer two payment options. One of them is electronic check, which is where you punch in your bank account routing number and then your bank account number, and that will pull the money out of your bank account. It will do it for free. All right. If you want to use any type of plastic, so a debit or a credit card, that will charge 3% on top of what you're paying. Okay. So those are the two options that we have online. If you want to send a paper check, you can do that as well. If you go back to our website, it does have our address, 1845 Fairmount Street, Box 38, Wichita, Kansas. So you can send it there. We would ask that you put your student's ID number in the memo line so we know who to attach to, who to apply that payment to. We also take cash, but we do we don't want to make a habit of taking cash payments, simply because we don't want your student to take the risk of carrying around $2,000 to $3,000 or something like that, or maybe a couple $100, have that maybe in their bag, in their dorm room, things like that. And it's a risk, it's an unnecessary risk that's taken where if they lose that money, they're out that cash. So generally, if your student comes in with that kind of cash, we're going to ask them where they got it. And 9 times out of 10, they tell us, hey, I just pulled it out of my bank account, either at the ATM or at the bank. And so we're going to try to help educate them and say, okay, listen, if you just pulled this right out of your bank account, you can do this online, you can do it free of charge, and it's much more secure, much less risk. You're not having to walk around with this cash and possibly have it go missing. So I think that's everything I've got that I want to cover. I think there is some questions out there. I haven't not been watching the chat, so I don't know if Kim or Shilu has, or if some of it's mine, or for some of it's for Shilu.
Yeah, there's
there's
questions for both of you. So Ryan, while you are up here,
one is about
just
what
a couple
are the student
came
service
in.
fees and other fees.
Can you elaborate on what the student service fees and the other fees are?
So the student service fee is it's a campus-wide fee. It's tiered based on your enrollment. So I'd have to double check my tiers, but for undergrads, I believe it's 3 hours and under, and then it goes 3 to 7, and then 3 to. I'd have to double check here. I don't know it off the top of my head because it changes between grad and undergrad.
Yeah.
But it is for your student services. So so your student gets access to the YMCA, any events on campus, student health, basketball tickets. Hopefully we're good this year,
We will be. Come on now. Let's go.
Positive thinking.
Right.
So yeah, any athletic tickets. That's what all that money goes to. It's split up to different. I could give you SGA's website to give you all the different organizations it's split up to, because I don't know them off the top of my head. I think it's around 20, but it gets split up to all different areas on campus. So, and it's divvied out by student government. But that's what the student support services fee is. The campus infrastructure fee that's mandatory goes toward campus improvements, so building improvements. There's a portion of a technology fee there, and then there's also a transportation fee to help pay for the bus service that runs between here and the Metroplex campus.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, so yeah, and that's really a good reminder. We talk in orientation about students who don't take advantage of the things that they're paying for. So this is a great example. Use student health, go to the events, use the basketball tickets, the baseball tickets, the volleyball tickets, the softball ticket, like use the fine arts, go to the fine arts events, all of those things that student fees are going toward funding to really create this kind of holistic experience. Your students are, your students have the ability to do all of that, and that's through those specific fees. So thank you for doing that, and I'll keep on the tuition fee questions. Once a parent is an authorized user, where do they go to see the bill?
So are we asking the portal? So the portal that you go to, it will be in the email. So once your student sets you up, you're going to get an email with your username. There will be a link in there. Again, you can bookmark that link. That is your login link. And then it's also located on the accounts receivable website under the students current and prospective tab. So 2 places that you can go to it. I'd advise bookmarking it because, if you're like me, you probably log in maybe once every 4 or 5 months to pay your bill, and then you're like, oh, what was that link again? So but that's the 2 places you can get it from, or you can email us and we're happy to share it with you again too.
Perfect. Okay, switching gears over to Shilu, a couple of other questions that have come in. Michelle asks, I have received my student's FAFSA amount. Does he still need to apply for specific scholarships?
So the FAFSA is really for federal student aid, and it's not necessarily for scholarships. So definitely doing the FAFSA is great, and do it early and get that done. But you can also apply for scholarships separately. There are university scholarships as well as external scholarships. So you want to make sure and read the instructions on the ones that you qualify for, especially if you use our tool on Scholarship Universe, because that's a matching platform, and so it will connect you with anything that the student qualifies for based on the information that they self-report and enter into the platform. And once they do, we load in general information that we already have access to. So grade point average, their FAFSA information, that's all in there. But if there's additional questions specific and unique to scholarships, it may prompt the student to answer those questions. So do all of that, and then it'll match you to scholarships. And if it is external ones, you will have to get out of the portal. You'll have a link that you connect to, and then you'll go to that specific scholarship. It could be like all kinds of different organizations. A lot of foundations offer scholarships. Let's say they're interested in accounting, so then the accounting organizations may have external scholarships. So you'll go out to the link and apply. You can be assured that because it was in the platform, it's been vetted and it is a legitimate scholarship. That's the difference between just going out on the web and just doing a random search versus going into the platform and actually using the platform for those external scholarships. And there's literally thousands of scholarships in there. So a lot of students have told me, oh my God, there's so many that I get matched to. How do I even apply? We'll just take it one day at a time and apply for everyone that you're eligible for, because you may have to apply for 100 to just get the opportunity to get 1 or 2, because when you apply for those external ones, you're out there with all the population applying. And so the key is apply and apply by deadlines.
Yeah. And so on those, this is a follow-up question. On the external scholarships, kind of related to an earlier question, what if you have external scholarships, maybe outside of Scholarship Universe too? Maybe, a community scholarship or something of some sort. And can you, just kind of talk about that. My specific question is, we talked a little bit about you can max out at cost of attendance, but then what about these outside? So can you talk about that a little bit?
So in the world of financial aid, it depends. So,
Right.
so it just depends on the parameters of the scholarships.
Yeah.
Some have some limitations. So recently there was a federal, with the big beautiful bill, there was a federal regulation put in that if you're getting an external scholarship that is covers everything and pays, it's a full ride, then you're no longer eligible for some of those grant funds. So we're still walking through all the details of those
Okay.
rules that have just come out. So we don't know all of those, but that's something to be aware of, that there are going to be some limitations, and some scholarship entities have their own limitations. But in terms of students getting outside scholarships, they want to send that to the university, to the Office of Financial Aid. We will then, in most cases, that third-party organization makes it out to Wichita State University, so the student doesn't have to do anything else other than put their information, ideally their name and their student ID, so that we know that it belongs to that student. And then we will put it on their account, on their record, and then they'll be able to see it on their portal and be able to see that on their account. And we'll also send an email saying that their awards have changed and they need to go take a look at it. And then, so that's whether it's one outside scholarship or multiple, that's what you do. Sometimes it is made out to the student and Wichita State, and so the student will have to endorse that. So we'll send an email to the student, to their Shocker email, saying, come and endorse your check. And then once we get that endorsed, then we will apply it. And so usually at the beginning of the year, since there's hundreds of these checks coming in, it will take us a little bit of time to get those processed.
Yeah.
But we will add that to the account, and we'll make sure that that is applied in time for that August 29th deadline. It will all be on there. So it doesn't matter when those come in. When they come in, we will just go ahead and apply those on their account. And then actually Ryan's team, we partner with him, and that's all automatic in terms of if we don't need anything additional. And if we do, then we'll contact you. But the key is to have that sent to the Office of Financial Aid at Wichita State.
Perfect. So this might be for both of you. Frank has a couple of questions here. One, so should we pay only after scholarships have been applied in August to the account? And two, is it better to have a 529 to transfer directly to WSU? So I'll just throw that out there.
So right now, if your student has accepted everything that Sheila's talked about, then what they do is they do something called memoing aid. And so that will show in your student portal as well. So the tuition fees that I showed in the portal, you'll see an expected aid number down there at the bottom if they've got everything in and got it all completed. And so that gives you an idea of what the balance is that you're going to owe, okay, or not owe possibly. If you're still expecting some aid, or you're still working with Sheila's office on finalizing that aid, then I would probably advise to wait until that aid gets finalized after the August 9th and then pay the balance due, okay? Generally, we're a state agency, so we don't want you to overpay, because any money that we receive, we have to send to the state of Kansas. We do not keep in our own personal and in the WSU bank accounts. So all money goes to the state. Now, in terms of the 529, we only want you to pay us what you owe us. So if you owe WSU $200, pay us $200. If you're pulling down additional money from your 529 for living expenses, computers, all that type of stuff that you're going to pay for personally, pull that down directly to yourself. Don't use WSU as a pass-through for that, okay? Any money that you give us from a 529, we will have to hold on the account for educational expenses in the future. So
Okay.
if your student enrolls next semester. So
now I will add to that and say that if there's enough aid to cover all of the charges, and then it is actual excess aid, then that will be refunded to the student. So we don't keep those funds for the next semester. We apply it in the semester that it is available. And then when there's any money left over or any excess aid left over, it'll be refunded. And that refund can be used for those additional educational expenses. So sometimes that's books that the student has to buy still, or it is living expenses if they're living off of campus. It could be their, personal expenses, whatever it is in that cost of attendance number. You can also just save it because maybe in a future semester, you may not have enough for the book costs or something, but you have enough this semester. So my big advice is for that excess aid to just be put in a savings account and held until the next semester comes. And then you can continuously do that. So just because that aid is released doesn't mean that you have to actually spend it. Only spend it as needed. That's kind of the financial planning piece of this that I would highly recommend that families sit together and talk about those costs and then talk about the excess aid. And in terms of borrowing, you have an idea of what scholarships are there, what the tuition costs, and you should only borrow what you actually need. So there's no reason to borrow the full amount of the loan that's offered. Sometimes students think that they have been offered this, they must accept it. Loans are something that needs to be repaid. So I would just borrow what you need. And one great option is, if you want to avoid loans, is to do the payment plan. It only costs $30 to do the payment plan versus taking out a loan and being charged the actual loan fees as well as a percentage that the loan that's taken from the loan in terms of a fee. And so be mindful of those things when you're borrowing those loans, that if you don't need to, and you can actually, a lot of parents say to me, oh, we just need a way to not pay it all in August. We just need it spread out. Well, that's what the payment plan does, is allows you to spread that out and make essentially monthly payments throughout the semester. And then you don't have to take out a loan. So that's what I would advise if you've got personal funds, or if the student is even working. As they're earning money, they could pay towards that balance. So that's a great option to avoid or limit the amount of loan borrowing.
Great. And a follow-up 529 question, what is the WSU number for the 529 transfer?
So that'll be dependent on your 529.
Okay.
You'll select WSU as a payee, and then you might have to enter in our address. Most 529s already have us in their database, so you'll just select us off the database, and then it will, once you submit your information, it will process a payment to us.
Okay, perfect. A last couple, Laura had a question a little bit ago. Can you go over the housing payment plan again? So can you just kind of briefly walk us through that?
Yeah, so the housing payment plan, we automatically do it for you. We'll take your meals charges and your room charge, and we'll break it out into 4 monthly payments. The payments are due on August 15th, September 15th, October 15th, and November 15th. Okay. So it's very straightforward. When you look at it in your student account suite, it'll be line item charges. So if you click on the make payment, then you can click on the line item charges, and you can come down there and you can see those individual payment amounts. And if you want to pay them one by one, pay them all at once, you can just click the checkbox right next to them and then click pay.
Great. Try to make it easy as possible,
Yep.
right? Try to eliminate the number of clicks, which is sometimes hard. Okay, and I think, let's see, go back to scholarships. If the scholarship isn't used for the fall semester, can it roll over to spring if your fall tuition is already paid for?
So most of our scholarships that are university scholarships are split between the fall and spring. And so it's an equal split of the amount. So if there is excess, it'll just be refunded and it can't really be rolled. So I would just save it for additional expenses that may occur in that future semester. The other thing is, for outside scholarships, Sometimes the organization says it's specifically for fall, so we'll apply it to fall. And then again, same thing with anything excess, then you will just have it to hold on to. And then sometimes they ask for us to split outside scholarships between the 2 semesters. And so there again, we'll split it. And then if everything is paid, they'll get that in a refund. Otherwise, it'll just be applied to the whatever charges are out there.
All right. Perfect. Follow up to housing payments. Those are posted and set up automatically then. Is that correct? I think if I'm understanding Laura's question, I think that's her question.
Yes, we'll break them out automatically. Now, if you're wanting to pay it and set that up to pay automatically, the answer is no. You can't set up a scheduled payment so that it pays on the 15th of each month on the housing and meals. Unfortunately, that's a system limitation on our software. It does, however, let you do that for tuition and fees. So if you set up the tuition and fees payment plan, you can schedule those payments to happen on the 15th of each month if you'd like.
Perfect. Okay, so the housing you cannot set up for auto payment. Tuition and fees, yes, you can do auto payment. Okay, perfect. Let's see. I think if I'm scrolling through these, all looks like maybe the only one. I think you answered this already, but one more time, Ryan, if you can tell us where to go if you're an authorized user to access your student's bill.
So a couple of places. Number one is the wichita.edu/AR. That'll take you to our website. You're going to click on the tab right there at the top that says Student, Current, and Prospective. From there, it's going to have a link that says Authorized User Parent Portal, and that's the login. Once your student sets you up, you will also get an email with your username, and it'll tell you who set you up. And there's the link to the website in there as well.
All right. So that link will be in your email. All right. We just want to do a couple of clarifications. Looking at proxy versus authorized user. So to see the financial aid information, it's going to be the proxy, wichita.edu/proxy. And if you need to pay the bill, pay the bills, you're going to be an authorized user separate from proxy. So these are 2 different systems. So if it's financial aid, proxy. If it's paying the bill, it's authorized user. Okay, so just want to make sure everybody's clear. Those are 2 separate processes there. And then another question came in real quick. Is housing costs separate from tuition costs? The account suite makes it look like all of the charges are together.
They are. It's all one big bucket, but we try to break it out and give you different payment plan options, so it doesn't all have to be paid in one point. So that's why you have 3 different payment plans essentially. But yes, at the end of the day, it's all one bill to be paid.
Big bucket. Okay. I know we're a couple minutes over, but I want to
Kim, I don't. Did we talk about direct deposit?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about it. So Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit about direct deposit for students who may have excess aid?
Yes. So what we do offer is if you do have excess aid, we can directly deposit that straight into your bank account. Now, the advantages of that are you get the aid probably a week faster. If you wait, we'll have to mail you a paper check. And so usually that takes 7 to 10 days, where the direct deposit is, you're probably looking at, if we disperse aid on that Saturday, August 9th, it should be in bank accounts. Generally, we see it come in on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. So you get it way before classes start versus possibly the next weekend by the time all the checks get mailed out and delivered. So that's another tab right there at the top of your student account suite. It says refunds. Click on there and set that up.
Perfect. All right. Shilu, want to clarify for everybody, scholarships, different scholarships are going to have different GPA requirements.
Correct.
And there's a lot of differences there, right? So where do you see where those academic requirements are? And so that everybody has a good understanding of what they need to do.
Sure. So the students should have received an actual award notice that gave the details. Because they're so unique and specific to the different types of scholarships, their award notification would have had that information. So that's the first place to go. And if for some reason they've misplaced it or don't have it, they could always contact our office about it. Now, if it's a general scholarship, so I'm referring to like automatic merit scholarships and things like that, then it will be just through our office and guidelines. But if it is a unique, specific, named donor-specific scholarship, then it will have its unique set of guidelines that are for that scholarship, uniquely for that scholarship. So again, go to the award notification. It would have been a separate letter about that scholarship. And so the details will be in that letter, and whichever area or department awarded that scholarship to you, they'll have all the details. So you'll have to go back to that area to get, if you don't have the letter or need that information. So if it's a college specific ones based on their major, you'll go back to that college and the scholarship coordinators in that college. Otherwise, and we can, if you contact our office, we'll direct you based on, if you don't know what it is, then we'll direct you based on what we see in terms of their scholarship.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Question about, does WSU report to the credit agencies? My student wants to build his credit.
No, we don't.
Okay. Well, that was fast. Okay.
And also for their loans, their credit history is for their student loans. Their credit history is not what impacts those. They receive those based on their FAFSA application, because we know that students don't have credit history. The parent loans do have a credit check. So when the parent applies for a parent student loan, that is the credit is checked, and also for those private loans, the credit is checked. But otherwise, for federal student loans, there's no credit requirement or credit checks.
All right. Great. So I think that is all of the questions. I think in the chat, there's some contact emails if you have questions about bills, and as you know, you're kind of navigating this maybe for the first time, that email, WSU Accounts Receivable at wichita.edu, is a fantastic resource for you. I'll stay on the line just a second. I'm going to announce our winners, yay, of our things. Alicia will send these out to our winners. Let me go back in our chat and find Alice Dungy and Rodney Allen are our winners tonight. So congratulations to you. You should be on the lookout. I know, give us about a week or so to get it out to you, because Alicia's gone the rest of this week. She'll get back next week and get those kinds of gifts out to you in the mail. And then last thing to kind of think about here, the fees change every year. Tuition changes every year. Scholarships sometimes vary from year to year. So once you kind of get your feet under you and you kind of understand it for this year, it may look different next year. Let me just say, it will look different next year. And so we want to make sure that you all understand there's a lot of things behind the scenes that go into not only scholarships, awarding scholarships, and tuition, and what it is and how it's billed and how fees are assessed. All of that changes every single year. So if at any point in time you get overwhelmed with this, a lot of people do, you're not the only one who's overwhelmed or lost or confused totally. So don't feel bad if you have to contact us for clarification or need questions. Both Accounts Receivable and Financial Aid, they have a fantastic staff who can help. There's a lot of people who, you can call on for support there. Certainly Shilu and Ryan are two of those great people. And you meet a lot of people. If you're coming to orientation later in the summer, you'll meet them in the parent program. So want to thank you both, Shilu, Ryan, for joining us tonight. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. This is a popular one, and this one is one that is reviewed and rewatched many, many times. So don't feel bad if you have to go back and rewatch some things and fast forward and rewind and all of that. That's why we record them, and that's why we make them available. We'll be back with you next week. I think we're talking first gen, if I'm not mistaken, next week, and the services that we have for your students there. So thanks you all for joining, and have a great evening.